afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Sindhwani. I must compliment you for this event, and also thank you for making me a part of this. And as you rightly mentioned, sustainability and is a universal concern, and I think the stakeholders are also universal. So it's too serious a subject to be left only to one set of stakeholders. Either it's government or non-government or even an agency. So each one of us has a stake to it, and each one has to make his or her contribution depending upon our might, our potential, in order to make it sustainable. So like the adage goes, physician, heal thyself. So sustainability, sustain yourself. I think that should be the slogan and the theme of this program. And how do we actually sustain sustainability? And as you were saying that this is one of the options, I think it's no longer option, it's the only choice now. As we move on in the 21st century, we would increasingly realize there's no longer an option or an alternative. It's the only way ahead, and the only option, not just one of the other many options. Just as the COVID made you realize that you had no option but to survive COVID. And then even some of those who were not very comfortable appreciating the Oriental thought or the Oriental modes of management or living were making frantic calls from overseas, from Europe, asking for some boosters in homeopathy and naturopathy, which they might have contemplated all their life. But when they're faced with the imminent threat of death, they started looking for it. And before the world comes to that pass, I think it's important that all of us realize the seriousness of it. And therefore, when we all talk of coming together with the private sector, the public sector, goes without saying that media has an important role to be a communicator and to be a bridge or a messenger of that ecosystem which is sought to be created. And to that extent, without being modest, I have to compliment the Indian Express for having taken this lead, and I'm sure the other media houses will also pick up the cue. Because we can keep talking politics, that sounds good, sensational for the day, and makes a good debate at 9 o'clock. But unless you survive for the next day, you will not be able to enjoy that spice as well. So if you actually want to also enjoy the spice and juice of that 9 o'clock debate which you are glued to, and the media person are also very fond of keeping you glued, you have to survive for that. And for survival, I think it's both sustainable as well as the green world. Now, as far as the atmosphere which Mr. Sindhwani was rightly mentioning, with the kind of threat of pollution, the climate challenges, etc., you will realize that at least after 2014, this government under Prime Minister Modi has been holding it in a very high priority. And this is quite contrary to the times till about 10-15 years ago, when India was not taken very seriously as far as our issues like global concerns, issues of global concern like climate challenges or the green concerns are concerned, because they thought either India was alien to it or maybe we didn't understand the seriousness of it. And to that extent, I think the credit goes to this government that in the last 10 years, we have made our voice felt. We have had an opinion and a view on these subjects which has gained acceptability across the globe, and it is also now being looked up to. And if it all means beginning from the foundational values of cleanliness, you would recall that in his very first Independence Day address after taking over as Prime Minister, he made a fervent call for Swachhata. And many people wondered why so, because they were used to the Prime Ministers talking about lofty ideals from the ramparts of Red Fort. So here was the Prime Minister asking you to keep your toilets clean. Realizing the very fact that if you don't keep your backyard clean, how will you keep the front clean? And he also emphasized on the construction of toilets specifically dedicated to women and girl children, to the school girls, because that was not only a matter of social justice, but it was also a matter of health concern, and if you actually keep talking of Viksit Bharat, 2047 Bharat, how can you allow this vital female energy to get squandered away at the altar of these avoidable health issues? And within 1 year, we had as many as 4 lakh women toilets built across the country. Soon it became a mass movement. And then he gave the call for what Mr. Sindhani was saying, life, which is life for environment, which was again lapped up by the entire world. It was again the Prime Minister who laid down in COP meeting the target of net zero by 2070. So, from a nation which was considered to be either alien or ignorant to these futuristic concerns, we had actually moved on to a level where we could actually lay the targets for others to follow. And that has given us a certain amount of esteem and also given us the confidence that yes, we can do it. And as a consequence to that, we have a host of new initiatives launched in the last few years. We have a green hydrogen mission. We have a mission for climate change. We have the life, of course. And when we talk of the biodiversity, as was being mentioned, it is we who have launched the deep sea mission. I think we are among the first in the world, realizing that we have 7,500 long kilometer, and which is coastal area, and our seabed is full of biodiversity, minerals, metals, which are not available to the other countries, even if they are located on the coastal area. And so when we discover that, we will not only gain in economy, because now we are looking forward to become a third economy, 5 trillion, then reach the top by 2047, but it will also be helping us to explore those bioresources which would enable us to become less dependent on the external sources or the imported sources. And when you talk of Atmanirbhar Bharat, if you think scientifically, you have to think of the indices or the scientific devices which would lead you to Atmanirbharta. And the sooner you become less dependent on petroleum products and you have your own fuels, the easier it would be to become Atmanirbhar. And there is no way you can't do it, because the bioresources both from Himalayas and from the seabed which are available to India are hardly available to any other country. And so, as I was saying, Deep Sea Mission was announced by Prime Minister not once but on 2 consecutive occasions, on 2 Independence Days, 2022-23. That's the kind of importance that we give. And realizing that all this, whether it is biofuels or waste to wealth biodegradable products, leading on to our energy resources and also contributing to our economy, are all going to be interlinked somewhere with biotechnology innovations and bioeconomy initiatives. And with that considered view, we are among the first in the world to have very recently come out with a biotechnology policy, which is primarily aimed at enhancing bioeconomy and also the circular economy, and that has been very appropriately named as Bio-E3, which means biotechnology. Yes, yeah, I like to hear the clap and then move on. Because not that I want to be flattered, but because that will enable you to remember when you go home why you clapped for. So you're clapping for because the policy has been very appropriately named as Bio-E3. E for environment, E for employment, and E for economy. So simultaneously 3, because as is being commonly believed across the world that the next revolution in the industry is going to be bioeconomy driven. You will soon have milk products produced in the lab, mutton produced in the lab. And one of the startups has already started that in Bangalore. It's producing milk-free milk, human-free milk, or sort of something like that, cow-free milk or whatever. And he's also now exporting it. And when your demand increases for food products, for all these things, where are you going to meet it from? We are going to keep, you don't even have the place now to build a house. You are encroaching into others' land, though legally or illegally. So where are you going to keep the whole lot of cattle and buffaloes? So you will then have to switch over, and that will be your saving and also your economy. So we have biofuels, biofoundries included in that new policy. And we've already come out with the first hydrogen indigenous bus, hydrogen fuel driven, by one of our institutes in Pune called the National Chemical Laboratory. And to that extent, I feel this is one sector, again, even though we had abundant natural resources, which was not being much looked into. Maybe the priorities of the earlier governments were like that. So our biotechnology, for example, in this sector, we had just 50 startups, bio startups in the year 2014. Now we've gone to nearly 9,000. And our bioeconomy was just $10 billion US. Now we've gone up to $130 billion just in about 10 years. And we hope to be 300 billion in the next 3-4 years. And that is going to add value to our economy when we reach that pedestal. And therefore, as I said, for multiple reasons, when we are addressing this issue of green sustainability, we are doing it simultaneously to take care of our health so that we can live another day for other things. B, we are also doing it to provide employment opportunities to the next generation, which are getting exhausted and saturated by the earlier sources, because these are new emerging sources. There's marine and Himalaya. And C, also because this is our natural asset not available to others, which will add add economy to India's growth story. And therefore, that requires an ecosystem, a wider synergy, a mass awareness, a whole of government plus whole of nation approach. And I'm glad that Indian Express has taken a lead. Once again, I would compliment them. And I hope, regardless of whether others feel tempted to pick up the queue or not, at least this group will move on to the next level. Thank you very much.